Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Samurai Goddess. The goddess next door takes on kung fu killers in this action-packed martial arts Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Samurai Goddess in paperback and e-readers today. DC Comics' new Wonder Woman movie looks like it's going to be a critical success. It has been praised by film critics all over the world, and that pretty much is going to lead into probably a #1 box office opening this weekend. And if this Wonder Woman movie pretty much is a critical success and a financial success, that pretty much means that we're all going to be stuck with Zack Snyder and Chris Nolan's vision for DC Comics superhero movies for the foreseeable future. And I'm not really happy about that because when it comes down to Zack Snyder and Chris Nolan's vision of DC Comics, it doesn't capture the heart of DC Comics, it doesn't capture the soul of a DC comic, and it does not capture the spirit of DC Comics superheroes and what they represent. Now, when it comes down to DC superheroes like Wonder Woman, they're supposed to be our friends and they're supposed to represent hope. Instead, what we get from Zack Snyder and Chris Nolan is a vision of darkness, anger, and misery. And that's not what DC superheroes are about. And we really have not gotten a clear picture of DC superheroes from any of Zack Snyder or Chris Nolan's films, whether it be Man of Steel or Batman v Superman or even this Wonder Woman movie. We have not gotten what these characters represent or what they are truly about in any of these films. And if this Wonder Woman movie becomes a critical and financial success, we're never going to see what these characters are or what makes them great on screen. And it may seem mean to some people that I want to see these movies fail, but what I really want to see is a change in management at Warner Brothers, because when it comes down to Warner Brothers and their handling of DC Comics properties, they have done a really poor job of handling these properties, especially when you compare them to Marvel Studios, which give us movies that literally are comic books come to life. And when you look at DC Comics and Warner Brothers' handling of their properties, it's clear to me that they're still stuck in the 1990s, still trying to push the same vision that they had in the 1990s from old Batman films that pretty much are obsolete and passé compared to what we're getting today. Today, we are getting comic books come to life at Marvel Studios, but on the DC side, we have yet to see that come to the screen. All we get on the screen from on the DC side are pretty much dreary, dark films that do not capture, again, the heart and soul of what these DC characters are about, their mission, and give us a reason to care about them. In most cases, when it comes down to these DC Comics films, they're just so angry that you can't enjoy them. You can't have fun watching them. They're just a dreary, depressing mess. And when it comes down to Warner Brothers, I just want to see them wake up and see the problem. And they can't see the problem due to a series of enablers who pretty much continue to enable them in their dysfunction. And when it comes down to Warner Brothers, they are, again, like a drug addict when it relates to these DC Comics properties. Just when they are about to hit rock bottom, the enablers, whether it be movie critics, comic fans, or people on the outside, come to their rescue and pretty much start making excuses for them, and that prevents them from being able to hit that rock bottom and admit that they have a problem as it relates to these DC Comics properties. Because their handling of DC Comics properties is pretty much a dysfunctional picture, especially when you look at their films like Batman v Superman or Man of Steel. Who wants to watch an angry Superman? Who wants to watch Batman fight Superman? And who wants to watch a Wonder Woman that is pretty much not true to the source material, a film set in World War I, not World War II? And that's one of the big problems I have with these DC Comics films. They don't respect the source material, they don't respect the characters, they don't respect the mission, and that's one of the big problems I have with Warner Brothers as it relates to the handling of their DC Comics properties. Marvel Studios makes every effort to respect their material, But Warner Brothers makes no efforts to respect their material. And that's why they have pretty much had next to no success when it comes down to these superhero films. They pretty much don't see that if they would respect the source material, their fans would become enthusiastic and they'd be able to energize their fan base in the way Marvel Studios has. Marvel Studios films are successful because they pretty much respect that source material and they respect the characters. And because they respect the characters and people see comics come to life, they have an incentive to go see these movies. And their movies are so much fun, you want to share them with your family and friends. When I look at your DC Comics movies, they're so angry, dreary, and depressing, they're not something you want to spend a Saturday afternoon watching with your family. And that's really sad because when it comes down to DC Comics characters, they're supposed to be our friends. They're supposed to be family oriented. They're supposed to be family friendly. And you don't get that vision from Zack Snyder or Chris Nolan. You don't get that vision of a family friendly film, a film that you can go out and take the kids to. And that's what we really want from DC Comics films and DC superhero films. We want films like the old Christopher Reeve Superman or the Michael Keaton Batman. Those two films pretty much were family friendly, especially Christopher Reeve's Superman. He was a friend. He was the hero that everybody wanted to be. And when it comes down to Keaton's Batman, yes, he was dark, but he was still Batman. He was still trying to help people. We didn't get that from the Batman v Superman or Man of Steel or even this Wonder Woman movie. When it comes down to those heroes, they're not about serving the community. They're pretty much about serving themselves. And that selfishness is one of the reasons why a lot of people don't like watching these DC Comics superhero films, because these heroes aren't really heroes for the people. They're heroes for themselves, and they're pretty much really self-centered and narcissistic. And those aren't really character traits that people want to relate to and identify with as it relates to a superhero. And when I look at this DC Comics Wonder Woman movie and it being a success, I look at it as a longer-term failure for Warner Brothers and the DC Comics brand, because as long as people keep enabling this dysfunction at Warner Brothers and DC Comics, they have no incentive to get better or improve the quality of their products. They pretty much will look at this Wonder Woman movie as a glimmer of hope, think that people will continue want to watch this type of film, and they will go out and make more types of films like this, featuring this dark, dreary, depressing model, these selfish, narcissistic characters, and present this whole dark vision of a hero, which really does not fit the vision of what these DC Comics characters truly were meant to represent. DC Comics superheroes were the original Super Friends. They were the ones who pretty much wanted to be our friends. They wanted to be the people who helped out in the community, and they were the people who wanted to lend a helping hand in the community. They were not these self-centered people as presented by your Zack Snyder and your Chris Nolan. And the only way to get off this model of dysfunction is for people to stop supporting this model. Unfortunately, because this film is getting a glimmer of hope, that gives Warner Brothers a glimmer of hope to continue going on this direction, even though it's the wrong direction, and it's a direction that is detrimental to their brand and their properties. The only way for Warner Brothers to wake up and see the light about their properties is to see this whole DC cinematic universe collapse, and then maybe once they see that happen, they can go and make a serious effort towards cleaning house at Warner Brothers regarding the DC Comics films, DC Comics publications, and the DC Comics brand. And that cleaning of house needed to have been done years ago. Unfortunately, because comic fans continue to enable that dysfunction, that house cleaning never gets done, and that setting a new course for the DC Comics brand in the 21st century gets delayed another 5 to 10 years, and the brand continues to decline in quality, all because of a small group of enablers who won't let the addict fall and hit rock bottom. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.